All right, welcome back to another episode of Limitless MD. I'm your host, Dr. Vikram Rai, and today I have my good friend Dan Handford. Dan, welcome to the show, man.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to sharing with the audience here.
What if you could reclaim hours of free time each week, create legacy building wealth, and devote more energy to your passion projects without giving up on your career as a life-saving MD? My name is Vikram Raya, functional cardiologist, high-performance coach, and real estate expert. And I'm here to give you the tools, strategies, and solutions you need to transform your life so you can unlock your limitless potential and achieve greatness, all the while freeing up your precious time. Welcome to Limitless MD. Let's dive in.
Guys, Dan is a walking legend. This guy is a medical entrepreneur. He's a chiropractor by training, practiced for a couple of years, still has successful clinics. Is that correct, Dan? You still have
That's correct.
Clinics going around. He has other medical businesses. And then he took the leap of faith and he went into real estate. He started doing multifamily real estate. And then once he mastered that, he took on self-storage. He looked at car washes. He's looking at hotels now. And on top of that, he up levels everyone he comes around with. And what I mean by that, he has 40,000 people on his MFIN network, which is Multifamily Investor Nation. And he's just pouring it into them: education, optimization, techniques, strategies. And all the while, he's helping his community and charities, including there's a lot of churches and evangelical schools that he's creating foundations for and helping them invest their money wisely too. So Dan, so much to talk about. Welcome to the show, my brother.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate all the compliments. It's kind of hard, listening to somebody else talk about me, or talking about yourself, because I just am doing what I was put on this earth to do, and just feel like it's been a great ride up to this point.
Let's get right into it, my friends. I want to talk to Dan about how did you go from being a chiropractor and transition into being this like super uber entrepreneur?
Well, it's one of those things where, if you ask my parents, I've been an entrepreneur ever since I was a little kid. I mean, negotiating with the doctor when I came out of which butt cheek they were going to slap, that kind of thing. But I've always, in growing up, I always remember, mowing lawns and selling things door to door, and even I had my own pressure cleaning business that I had for a while, and went and pressure cleaned, gas stations and things like that. So I've just always had that kind of entrepreneur niche about me, or itch about me. And so, when I first got out of chiropractic school, started my own, clinic right out of the gate. And what I found though is that, in working in the clinics day to day, I was a good chiropractor. I had great quality treatment and, did a lot of great things, but I found that I was kind of stuck in a business or in a job, really, because I could only see so many patients an hour and I was capping my income, and I really was kind of stuck, if you will, because even if I wanted to go on vacation, I couldn't go on vacation because there was staff and overhead and utilities and things like that I had to continue to pay regardless as to whether or not I was actually in the clinic or not seeing patients. And so quickly learned early on that I needed to kind of scale by hiring other doctors to work underneath me so I didn't have to do it. Then we quickly, a few years later, integrated into medicine, started hiring on the medical side to our clinics, hiring medical doctors, nurse practitioners, and having a non-surgical orthopedic approach to a lot of different types of treatments. And then about 5 or 6 years ago, ended up completely cutting out the chiropractic services from our offerings to be able to better service people from a non-surgical orthopedic perspective. And so right now we have 4 non-surgical orthopedic sports medicine clinics doing a lot of prolotherapy, PRP, and stem cell treatments for orthopedic conditions. And so it's been quite fun doing that, but then that also created a tax problem too.
Let me just jump in there. You're the architect of these 4 clinics, but you don't physically work in them. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So now you're the owner and not the operator.
Correct.
What was the mindset to create that? And why is it so few doctors can transition there?
Yeah, well, I will say that it was a mindset shift that I had to have. And I distinctly remember when I stepped out of the full-time operations, the week before, I was actually at an event, and the person speaking at that event was talking about how you need to become the general in your business. And for me, I was like, well, I am the general, I'm going in, I do this, I do that, and I'm putting fires out and stuff like that. And he's like, but that's not being the general in the business. That's like, being the I don't know who was under the general, somebody else, the sub general, if you will. I don't know all the lieutenant. Yeah, it's like being the lieutenant, right? You're still going in and you're doing the day-to-day stuff. And for me, I had to literally that night, I went back to the hotel and I was just thinking about this, and I was like, I've never actually thought about how to literally take myself out of the day-to-day operations to be able to go and focus on something completely different. And so at that time, I was on a Friday night at that event. I made the decision. I was there with a friend of mine. We talked to 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, I actually think I have a plan and a process in place. Because at the time I had a really good COO, kind of a chief operating officer, and he was doing really, really well. And I was like, you know what? I think that he has the qualities to be able to be the CEO. I still want to be the president. I still want to see the numbers. I still want to see the KPIs. I still want to manage the vision and the overall kind of, direction and trajectory of the clinics, but I didn't want to go in every day. So that next Monday, I had a conversation with my COO at the time and told him what my plans were about transitioning out and him becoming the CEO. And he looked at me and was like, well, I'm pretty much doing everything as it is anyway. And I was like, well, what am I doing in there? So literally the next day on that Tuesday, we did a live video feed to all of our team and announced that I was leaving. Of course, some of them were like, are you dying? Is something wrong? Are you sick? I was like, no, nothing's wrong.
Where do we send the flowers?
Exactly. So it was definitely a mindset shift for that time.
And I want to weigh in there, guys. So all the listeners out there, notice he delegated. He's still involved in the sense that there's oversight. He delegated. He did not abdicate, meaning turn a blind eye and hope and pray that his business is going to do well. He still has a dashboard as the founder and president, and he's looking at the dials and he's making sure the airline is stable, or the plane is stable and is flying at altitude. So that's awesome. So let's now get into, all right, I have a tax problem. What the F do I do now? And how do I now translate that into what we have here, which is the passive investing empire?
Yeah. So at the time, we're all of our 4 clinics are 100% debt free. So it's a great problem to have because, you have a lot of cash flow coming in, but when you have a lot of cash flow coming in, guess what? You pay a lot of money to the government in taxes. And so we were doing that, not just on a yearly basis, but on a quarterly basis, getting that quarterly hit. You got to write that 6-figure check every single quarter. And it was really, irking me because we were spending so much time and energy and effort with those clinics, and we had built them up to a certain point. And so being able to step away from the clinics and focus on real estate really is what was the ticket for us that allowed us to be able to have the ability to have our investments with the real estate investments to have depreciation to be able to offset some of our income. And so for us, we were able to I was able to step away full time, let my new CEO now run the ship. And basically what I do from an oversight perspective is on a monthly basis, I have a meeting. I call it my monthly corporate directors meeting with my team. And there's usually about 7 to 8 of us that are in a room, and each one of them has a different responsibility, what they're going to be presenting on. And we present on various KPIs and various, things that are happening in the clinics. And, right now we're actually, oddly enough, expanding into 2 different more locations, and I'm not really doing anything at all. Right. I'm having my team do it, but they're coming to the meeting with some ideas and thoughts, and I can still have that vision behind it, because eventually, those clinics will get to the point where we want to exit them, but we want to be able to grow them to a certain point that we'll have a nice, equity multiple when we do decide to sell them. But I have my team running that on a day-to-day basis. And that meeting usually lasts about an hour and a half to 2 hours a month. So for about an hour and a half to 2 hours a month, I'm making decisions and helping my team be able to learn how I think, so they can start to make some decisions for me on my behalf. And then that allows me to focus on the real estate side of things, which allows us to be able to have the ability to invest in real estate, to get the depreciation, to be able to offset the income that we're making from the clinics.
Guys, I don't know if you caught what he just said. Essentially, he's creating his clinics in such a way that it's a sellable asset. Many people have clinics. A lot of you are listening. You guys are doctors and professionals and specialists. You have something, but if you take you out, everything falls apart. You have to take yourself out and build everything in such a way that it's a self-contained system It's a business system, if you will, and it's generating cash flow, and it sustains without you. That is highly valuable because then someone will want to buy that. So that's kudos to you for creating that.
It's what I like to call a dancing bear business, right? Because the bear, as long as he's dancing, you're making money. But the moment the bear stops dancing, things start to go awry. But if you can build a business from the very beginning with the potential for an exit, then your mind starts to think differently about how you could put in systems and procedures and processes so that you can have a successful exit on the back end. And I'm sure there's a lot of physicians that maybe are working for, hospitals or other types of facilities. You don't own your own yet. Maybe you're thinking about it. Well, even if you're in this thinking stage, you should be putting yourself into the mindset of thinking towards an exit, even from the very beginning when you're putting things together. And one of the things that, I always talk about is when you're trying to name a business, don't put your name on it. Especially if you're thinking about exiting it, right? You want to make sure that you name it something where that if somebody else comes over and they take it over, they can take it over and it doesn't have to worry about having your name on it or your reputation or anything like that. Try to name it something completely different that is a separate brand from your particular name. Plus, if everybody's coming there to see you because it's Dr. Handford's clinic, right? Then they're going to expect to see me. Where if it's somebody else, if it's not somebody else's name, but if it's a non-named brand name, then they're not expecting to see, Dr. Handford when they come in to see the office.
That's awesome, man. And let's talk about naming. Why did you choose passiveinvesting.com? I mean, there's a lot of reasons I can already see, but tell me, what was your thought process there? And the fact that you went after that domain, which I'm sure wasn't cheap.
Yeah, as I say, why not? Well, actually, so I was actually at a conference, and it's actually I don't even a conference. It was a mastermind with a lot of other entrepreneurs, and one of the guys that runs that is a big domain guru. Like, he just buys domains. He's got like 3,000 or 4,000 domains that he's acquired over the years. He just holds them, sits on them, and eventually somebody comes in and wants to buy them from him, right? And I didn't buy this domain from him, but he was doing a talk on what he does with domains and how he does this keyword research and figuring out like what are the best domains out there. And so I just took some of his strategies and started to try to find some of my own like names and domains that are in this space. And I came across passiveinvesting.com and it was available. I reached out to the group and made him an offer, and we bought the domain. And, before we had passiveinvesting.com, the name of the group was actually twofold because we have 3 managing partners. One of them was myself, and I had a company called handfordcapital.com. And then I have Danny Randazzo, and he had one called randazzocapital.com. And so when we came together, we of course wanted to merge the brands somehow. And, Handford Randazzo Capital just was too much, if you will. And a lot of people, even if I would tell them Handford Capital, they'd spell it multiple ways. Like they'd spell it without the D in the middle. So it'd be HANFORD instead of HANDFORD. And, the word capital can be spelled 2 different words, even though it's really only spelled one way when we're talking about like money capital. But it can be, there's a lot of things that can be misinterpreted, if you will. But when you go onto a website or a podcast or a news article and you talk about passiveinvesting.com, you don't have to worry about trying to like spell it out or anything like that. And, one of the reasons why we chose to name it more broadly, like passiveinvesting.com versus multifamily passiveinvesting.com or self-storage passiveinvesting.com, is because we wanted to leave ourselves open to be able to offer alternative asset classes as we continue to grow the company in these different verticals. Like you mentioned early on that, our majority of our holdings is in multifamily, but we also have now self-storage, hotels, and express car washes that are in our portfolio. And it's been great because we've had a lot of investors that want to diversify outside of just multifamily. And it's been good to be able to provide them those different options that will allow them to provide some of that diversification for them.
Guys, passiveinvesting.com is one of the creme de la creme operators in this country. They're on track with their private equity company to really, provide a solution for the common investor versus the big smart money, the institutional money, all that kind of thing. And I love the fact that he still caters to the individual investor. And one of the most powerful things Dan does is educate. Tell me about why that's a core principle in what you do.
Well, I had a mentor years ago, and he actually, one of the things he told me was, he said, give away your best stuff, right? Provide as much value as you can and as much value as possible, because the more value you provide, the more you'll get in return, right? And so we are our kind of educational platform from the multifamily side is called the Multifamily Investor Nation. We have our YouTube channel, we have our weekly webinars, we have our annual event that we have going on right now called the MFI Con, and so there's a lot of different things that we're doing, and we provide a lot of this for free, right? The only thing we charge for really is our in-person stuff that we do. Like if we have an intensive in our office here, or if we do an event like the one we're having in Charlotte coming up in a few weeks. But for the most part, we're providing a lot of free educational content. And as you know, Vic, we don't hold back, right? Like we're going to give away everything as possible. We're not going to say, hey, only if you pay us X amount of dollars, we're going to give you this. We're like, if you want it, we're going to give it to you, right? And so that's provided a lot of I'm going to say goodwill, if you will, in the industry of people knowing that we just try to give and give and give. And if somebody has questions for us, we're going to provide it. And what we get in return is we get a lot of high level entrepreneurs, business owners, physicians, attorneys, and other syndicators that invest with us as well because of our kind of credibility in the community. And one of the side effects of the educational side of things for us was that, our reputation was becoming greater and greater in the community with other syndicators, where somebody would reach out to Vic and say, hey, Vic, what do you think about this group? And he's like, I haven't heard anything but good things about this group. Right. And so we've had a lot of good people that have come to us and have talked about how they've got references from people. Some people have never even invested with us before and talked about how good we are. Right. And it's because we taught them how to get to where they are today. And we've provided a huge impact. And so that's the primary reason why we do that, is to be able to provide as much information as possible, to be able to get that, of course, in return with investors wanting to invest with us as well.
Dan, I like to ask, what's your why? What's driving you? And what's keeping the afterburners on in the jet, if you will?
Yeah. So I would say it's kind of a hard question that I've, obviously the easy answer is my family, right? Like I'm married, I have 4 children, and I don't want to say it lightly that I'm not doing this for my family. Like I am doing a lot of this for my family and my future generations and the future generations that come past me. But, one of my mentors early on asked me that very same question, like how much more money could you make to be able to get to where you want to be? Right. And I sat back and I was like, honestly, there's not really there's not going to be a huge amount of money that can make a big difference in my current lifestyle. Will there be some things that I could do differently? Sure, there would be, but even an extra, 20 or 30,000 a month wasn't going to change a lot of the things that I was doing at that time. And so he told me, he said, well, you need to shift your mindset and shift your focus to thinking about something that's bigger and better and greater than you, that you can actually put a lot of your time and energy effort into. And that's the foundation that you mentioned early on. We have a foundation that I started about 3 years ago called Fortify Foundation. You can find more information at fortifyfoundation.com. But the goal of that foundation is to come alongside small to medium-sized schools, Christian schools, and teach them about how to do what we do in the investing side of things by starting a foundation, or not really starting a foundation, but using our foundation to have an endowment for their particular school to be able to grow it, to be able to create some sustainability for their schools. One of the largest sovereign wealth funds in the country, or even in the world, is the Mormon Church. And it's because they started an endowment 50, 60, 70 years ago and started putting money away. And now their portfolio, I think it's like 7 or 8 billion that's socked away inside of an endowment. And so that's what we're trying to do with some of these small to mid-sized schools, to be able to create some sustainability, is to create an endowment for these types of organizations.
And I think, like you said, like sometimes the drive diminishes as you keep achieving different levels of success. But when you have something so powerful like that, you're essentially allowing these small schools to play at the same level as a Yale, as a Mormon Church, as these billion-dollar endowments. And it's almost like you're leveling the playing field, because right now all other kind of institutions have unfair advantage, and now you're letting these entities thrive. So that's awesome. Powerful cause. And I love that. A lot of people have marked you as, the next thing he's going to do, he's done. Oh, he's gotten to car washes. Oh man, watch, he's gonna go down. And your demise has been predicted by, not necessarily people are saying it in a negative way. It's just like, oh, how much more can he do? Can you tell them how you've, like the audience really, how are you disproving the fact that you can be good at multiple things is what really the crux of the question.
Yeah. Well, I'll bring it back to when I first expanded the clinics from one location to 2 locations. I made a big mistake. And that mistake has taught me a lot I'm doing a lot of things now because of that mistake that I made. And what I did when I expanded from one location to the second location, I really wanted that second location to succeed, right? Because I didn't want that to be a failure. And so I took my core team from my primary clinic and I transplanted them into the second location. And I figured everything would be fine. And at the time, I was only looking at the numbers on a quarterly basis, because when I had one clinic and I was in there every day, I only really needed to look at the numbers on a quarterly basis because I was there. I can see the volume, I can see the flow, I can see the checks coming in and the cash and all that was great, right? But when I opened up to the second location, that's when it really struck me that I had made a mistake, because when I was looking at the quarterly financials a quarter later, I noticed that the first clinic was suffering. And it's because I took my core focus, my core team off of that primary location and I put it on the second location. Now, the second location was profitable within the first 30 days, 30 to 60 days it was profitable. But I now started losing money.
You essentially cannibalized one clinic for another.
Exactly. And so from that mistake, of course, we made a lot of different changes, and it actually took us a whole year to open up the third location, because a lot of the different lessons that we had to learn from that first opening of that second location. And, but then we opened up our third one and our fourth one within a matter of 3 months, right? Because we learned how to make sure that we hired a team to focus on that next clinic before we even had the next clinic. And same thing. And that's what we're doing right now in our private equity real estate company at passiveinvesting.com. Is we have the core multifamily team. And now that we've branched out into self-storage, we have our core self-storage team. We're doing the same thing in the hotel space and the express car wash space, because I personally can't do everything all at the same time, right? But I have to rely on my team, right? So right now, this time last year, I think we might have had 16, 17 full-time people. And right now we have over 40 full-time people that are working directly with passiveinvesting.com. And we have a great, solid team. And I always sit back sometimes and just look at our team, just go, I'm not sure how we got such a great quality team, but we do. We have a great quality team, and I'm just really excited about them. And, we've actually had very few people even leave us because we take care of our people, right? We want to make sure we have people that will stay with us for the long term and they want to ride this with us. And so for me, I would say the best way to kind of scale and grow like that is to be able to find good quality team members. And in the beginning, when I started to do the delegation and hiring people, I had the kind of, mentality that I just needed to hire the cheapest employee as possible. Right. And I don't know, and I'm sure other people that are listening have done that before, where you tried to hire the cheapest people and you didn't get the results you were looking for. Right. That person either just didn't work out, or they just were always a drag. And then you got rid of them and hired somebody else and tried to do it again. And you've had that same problem. But what I have found is that if you find a good quality team and you pay them well and you treat them well, they're going to want to be loyal to you. They're going to want to stay close to you. They're going to want to take care of what you have built. Right. And so that's where our goal is to be able to build a great quality team that can support our different business units and the different asset classes. And as we continue to grow and scale, we'll continue to hire on more good quality people to be able to scale out into other different types of asset classes.
Dan, I love what you were saying about business units. So essentially, the pearls I got, and I'm talking to the audience here, really is just he's figured out from his previous issue with the clinic is, hey, when I'm going into a new field, let's say he wants to go into nail salons, find the best nail salon person in the country, maybe who's done maybe multiple, get that team and literally come in. But he knows the general business principles because he's been a successful entrepreneur. He has general business principles that work, but domain expertise, he brings that on, and then he implements the tried and true formula. Boom, and that's how he gets started in whatever domain he enters. And so if he's creating a whole sustainable team, then all he has to do is deal with the heads of these teams, look at the KPIs, look at the metrics like he's doing. And with general business principles plus hiring, right? Hiring sounds like another superpower that Dan has. It's hiring the right people, paying them what they're worth, or potentially even more than what they're worth, incentivizing them, and then obviously feedback, making sure that they're getting they're doing what they need to be doing. So
and that kind of goes back, Vikram, to what you were saying earlier on of leadership by abdication, right? That's actually not a very good way to lead. And then there's the opposite of that, which is leadership by micromanaging. And you can't do it by either way very effectively. There's got to be some sort of happy medium in the middle there, which will allow you to become that leader that you really need to be in your business. That's
awesome, man. As we wrap up here, before I tell them how to find out more about you and all the amazing events you're putting on, any last tips for the medical entrepreneur? Any words of wisdom as people are looking to transition, and as people are sick and tired of the bureaucracy of medicine, as they're trying to become their own man or woman, if you will, and maybe strike out on their own and use their medical skill sets, either complementary or even pivot out of medicine?
Yeah, a couple of things I would mention is number one, whenever you're looking to branch out and either start your own business or level up your own, medical business that you've already started, it is a very good idea to hire a mentor to be able to help you get where you want to go faster, whether it be in business or marketing or, finance or real estate or wherever it may be. You need to spend those dollars to be able to get the advice from somebody that has already been down that path. The biggest thing is making sure you find the right person that has already been down that path and can help you get to where you want to go faster. And that's what I've done along the way as well, is I've always had a mentor, or a lot of times multiple mentors that have helped me get to where I am today.
Yeah.
You can't rely on just one. It's just like, I always kind of go back to like Tiger Woods, right? He's got a hitting coach. He's got a chipping coach. He's got a driver coach. You got a coach for multiple different types of shots, right? And it's just one game. And so you want to make sure you have multiple people that you can rely on. And then the second kind of word of advice I would mention is that even if you have your own business, I would suggest that you always keep your eyes and ears open for other opportunities for you to be able to create alternative streams of income. So whether it be investing passively with a group like ours or with Vikram's, or being able to go and start another business somewhere else that maybe you are just the president of and kind of the visionary behind, but you're not having to go in and do the day-to-day stuff. Go do that and create those alternative income streams, because there's going to be a point in time, and Vikram will vouch for this, there's going to be a point in time where your clinic income might be down for a month or two or three or a longer period of time. And it's always great to have those alternative income streams to help create some stability in your income as you continue to grow.
Boom, guys. I hope you guys took notes, took lessons. That's powerful advice. I've followed it myself. I'm sure Dan has. Most of the top entrepreneurs I know have done that. So, his company, my company, it doesn't matter, but finding some alternative resources, and then realize that the average millionaire out there now has 9 streams of income. So if you're relying on one W-2 or maybe W-2 and something else on the side, that may not be enough. And as
how many do you have, Vikram? How many do you have? Ballpark. How many do you have?
Probably like 4 or 5, easy.
You got more than that, because you got all these properties that are producing income too. So each one of those properties are different ones. So I would say I'm probably close to about maybe 70 to 80.
Oh, I guess if I look at the assets like that, maybe probably in the 30s and 40s. Yeah. Guys, I want Dan to tell where we can find out more about him. And I've had the pleasure of speaking at one of his conferences and the one that's coming up, the MFI Con. So I want him to definitely talk about that. We have 3 amazing guests that are going to be there. So I want him to share that and also talk about his company, Passive Investing.
Yeah. So the event that's coming up is going to be in Charlotte, June 23rd, 24th, and 25th. And we have 3 celebrity speakers. We have Shaquille O'Neal. Of course, everybody knows who he is. He's going to be there. I'm going to have the pleasure of interviewing him on stage and picking his brain about a lot of the investing that he does. He also invests heavily inside of multifamily. So we're going to talk about that. And then Barbara Corcoran, the real estate mogul out of New York. So we're going to have her there speaking. And then we're also going to have Jocko Willink. He's the author of the two books that are really popular. I think he's written more than that, but two popular books: Extreme Ownership and Dichotomy of Leadership. So he's going to be there, and then of course Vikram's going to be there. I'm going to be there. Our teams are going to be there. So it's going to be gonna have a lot of fun there. Going to have 500 plus investors that are going to be there. 60 other speakers that are going to be there speaking, and it's all around multifamily investing and how to do that from an active perspective or a passive perspective, depending on which perspective you want to see. There's going to be content for both sides of it. And so you can go to mfincon.com to find out more information. That stands for Multifamily Investor Nation Conference or Convention. So mfincon.com and find more information there. And you have a promo code too that you can give out too. Do you remember that what it is, Vikram?
Yeah, we'll drop it in the show notes below. I think it's either Viking or Vikram, one of the two. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. Yeah. And that'll give you usually about a couple $100 off the tickets. Be able to come and rub shoulders with us, shake our hands, meet us, greet us. Love to be able to do that. And if you want more information about our group, I bet you've probably already guessed it, but you can go to passiveinvesting.com and find out more information.
Brilliant marketer, guys. Brilliant marketer. That's awesome. Dan, awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks for adding so much value. Thank you for sharing your origin, your life story. I love where you're going and where you've been. And it's always been a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, guys, stay phenomenal. Until next time. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Limitless MD. If you found value from this episode, I encourage you to share this episode with a friend and let me know by leaving a review. For more information, make sure you check out the links in the show notes below or simply visit vikramraya.com. So until next time, my friends, be phenomenal.